And then 172, what are the marks which point out the true church founded by Jesus Christ?
4 marks of the church instituted by Jesus Christ are traditionally mentioned. That the church is one, is holy, is Catholic, and is apostolic.
Right. So that one, that unity.
Yeah, one. The church is one because the faith is the same. We believe the same thing. We have the same sacraments. We have the same authority. We have the same pope for the whole church. We have bishops. We have priests. So the major outlines are there. The church is one because the tradition, what we have inherited from the apostles, is one. And Christ, our founder, guides it through the one Holy Spirit. Obviously, within that unity, there's a lot of diversity according to cultures, languages, and peoples, and times.
Yeah, I can imagine. I have a problem just communicating with our little apostle. I imagine with the Pope dealing with different cultures, different languages, what an unbelievable problem he has in communications, you know.
But those are on matters that are not dogmatic.
Right.
For instance, in some cultures, they would like to wear black when they are rejoicing. Black for marriage and Christmas Day. And for funeral, they would like to wear white.
I see.
That becomes a matter of culture.
Right.
In some cultures, the celebrant, they would expect him to sit on the floor. But other cultures, most cultures in the West, they expect the celebrant priest to stand at the altar.
Right.
So those are matters that can change and do change. The church is not inflexible at all in those matters.
I think that's important to know. And one, holy, Catholic, apostolic.
Yes, holy, because the church was instituted by Christ, who is himself holy, in the summit of holiness. He is God and man. And the Blessed Virgin Mary is the mother, and she is all holy. And then the saints have accumulated a lot of merit throughout the centuries. The church is holy also in her celebrations. The equipment Christ gave her, if I may use the word, the sacraments. Right. The church is holy also in the offices Christ gave her. The church, this does not mean that every member of the church arrives at the height of holiness de facto. Some members of the church can become failures. If Christ had 12 apostles and he schooled them for 3 years, and one of them sold his master for 30 coins, in spite of all the attempts Christ made to win back Judas, it shows us that the human will can really fall short. And it has happened sometimes in history.
And God will never infringe on our free will like Judas. He wanted Judas to be with him, but he wouldn't infringe
use force on Judas.
Right. Yes.
Christ had the power to reduce Judas to a corpse.
Sure.
The time he was going to make the midnight arrangements. If Christ wanted, he could have made him blind or dumb, or made him fall down and die. He did not want to do that, so that Judas would make a free decision and be responsible for his decisions. It is a tremendous power we have, freedom. We must use it carefully. Some people think that freedom means I can do what I like. Right. You're going to face the consequences. Freedom is I am to choose what I should choose.
That's right.
Then I'm growing up using my freedom.
There's responsibility for freedom. Every time we have a freedom, we have a responsibility.
Exactly.
And this is what we're not seeing today. We're seeing such an abuse of the freedom today that, we can just do whatever we want to do, and that's just contrary to it.
That is abuse of freedom.
Yes.
And the church is holy also by, there's a long tradition of asceticism, mysticism, holy people in the church, all through the corridors of church history. They encourage us.
Yes.
The individual is not alone.
And then, one holy, Catholic, then, and apostolic.
Catholic, because the church is established by Christ for the whole world, universal, not as a religious body just for a group, not for Jews only. For Jews and Gentiles, that means for all peoples, everywhere. The church is to reach all stages. the church in her missionary work is not meant to destroy what the various cultures have that is good, noble, true, but in respect for all of them, bring in the one gospel of Christ, allow each people to remain authentically that people. What must change is what is opposed to the gospel. But we cannot always establish it a priori. The various cultures must be studied carefully in order to identify those elements. So the church is Catholic because the church is at home among all peoples. It's not really a church of Western Europe or Northern America or Southern America or Asia or Africa. It is a church worldwide. But it must be at home among each people. And where it is not at home, something should be done so that it will be at home there.
So the church respects the culture, and I know the Holy Father has a separate council for culture because he respects cultures there.
Oh yes, that there is a pontifical council for culture, which is a sign of how the church appreciates culture.
Yes. And I guess the Holy Father said from every culture we can learn something, we can apply to our life. There's some unique gift that every culture has for the church.
Exactly. Vatican II said it already in paragraph 13 of the document on the church, that the various peoples of the world come to Christ bringing their gifts, much like the 3 wise men from the East who brought him various gifts. And that the church doesn't come to demolish the beautiful elements in people's cultures. There are, of course, elements that must remain the same. The 10 Commandments come from God. There's no question of a discount on 1 or 2 of the commandments for the sake of local custom. There, no. Because there it becomes a question of faith and morals, what we must believe and do. In that one, there is no change. In that, the church is one, we said earlier.
Yes. And then finally, apostolic.
Because it comes from the apostles, from Christ through the apostles. So that every bishop in the Catholic Church can trace his ordination back to one of the apostles. Everyone. And every priest can trace his ordination to a bishop. Well, he was ordained by a bishop anyhow. And therefore the bishop immediately back to another bishop, another bishop, another bishop, till we reach one of the apostles. If there is any bishop, and trace him back, we cannot reach one of the apostles, then he is not a bishop. Even if he wears all the vests, that's not the point. You see, that's what we call apostolic succession. That link is never broken. Isn't it wonderful? For almost 2,000 years. Empires come and go. The church was under persecution in this country or that country, catacomb here, a silent church there, behind iron curtain there, behind the bamboo curtain there, and Christ there. Bishops imprisoned, tortured, popes killed, sisters, priests. And yet, it's wonderful.